Welcome to the Wonder of Woo podcast, where we highlight how businesses can scale profitably by serving others well. I'm Darryl Zavadny.
And I'm Ed Howie.
And this is
the Wonder of Woo. If you're a business owner investing time, money, and marketing only to be frustrated by losing customers, then this podcast is for you.
Ed, when we do this podcast, we really celebrate the rewards of serving others well in business and in life. We say this all the time. It doesn't just feel good, it's good business.
That is the great part about taking care of others, serving others well. It is a strategic business intention, but it should also be a strategic life intention.
Right. As we get started, let's talk just very quickly, calibration. The Wonder of Woo, what are we talking about for the benefit of our community? If you're a first-time listener, first-time subscriber, what is Woo? What are we talking about?
So I think we all know that, like, when things are good, they're Woo, right? So what does Woo stand for, and what is with that third O? Well, Woo stands for winning others over and over. It takes a lot for us to show up for that first date or show up for the first day on the job or to take care of that brand new customer, really well. It takes a lot more intention to do that over and over again, consistently building that trust in all the things that distract us. And so this conversation and what we do is all about a celebration of not only the importance of winning others over and over, but really how complex but simple it can be. And that's what I love, the fact that, Darryl, you and I get to sit here and explore businesses and brands and people and experiences and see when it works really well and see when sometimes there's a miss. And it inspires me just sitting here talking with you about it.
It does. And, you talk about it. It's not just the intention, it's the execution, right?
Yeah, I mean, intention's a wish if behavior doesn't follow.
Right.
And depending on the complexity of your enterprise, getting 2, 5, 10,000 people aligned with the same mission and the same behavior and the same procedures, it takes a lot of work. And we are here empathizing with you, leader, recognizing that we're just trying to help you along the way. This is not a righteous dialogue. This is hopefully collaborative and inspiration.
Sure, yeah, and we're co-journeyers in this.
That's right.
And so, Ed, I'm excited about today's topic, and it's a fun one and kind of a funny one. But I hope and pray for your benefit, leader, that it is of great application. So we've titled this episode, "What is Your Share of Stomach?" And that seems weird and like, what are we talking about?
Unless you're in the food industry.
Yeah, unless you're in the food industry.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll set it up this way. And here's the good news and the bad news, leader. The good news is that your product will never fully and finally satisfy your customer. It just won't. It'll never fully and finally satisfy your customer. And the good news is that means repeat business.
So you're saying that basically my product is not going to exclusively take care of all the needs of my customers.
Right, in perpetuity, right? iPhones break, houses break down, cars break, tires break, blah, blah, blah. So that's...
Unless you're a Maytag dishwasher built in 1960.
Right, anyway, those bad boys held up.
They're still working.
Right, so leader, that's the good news. Your product will never fully and finally satisfy the customer. Here's the bad news. Your product will never fully and finally satisfy the customer. And so why is that bad news? Well, it's not bad news, but it means that there's competition.
And so it means you got to work at it because you can't just rest on your laurels. You got to keep working.
Yeah, this is kind of the transfer portal for customers because they're constantly in the transfer portal.
Yep.
And so,
and for those that don't understand football, let's talk about it. The transfer portal really is a situation where all of a sudden the agency was put with the player, the customer, versus the controller, which was really the university, right?
Right.
And so we've got a bunch of college athletes, whatever your position on it is, that are constantly saying, is this the best solution for me?
This year.
And if not, I go look, I can easily go see what other options. Does that sound like what our customers do every day?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've got a question for you. And it's kind of an odd one, but go with me on this thought.
I'm used to your odd questions, so let's bring it on.
So here we go. So Ed, if you could take a pill, and that pill was perfectly nutritionally balanced for you, who knows, science, maybe they're working on this, perfectly nutritionally balanced, and that pill satisfied your nutritional needs optimally for a week, 21 dining occasions. Would you take that pill and just be like, done?
You're saying, would I give up 21 opportunities to eat fries? The answer to that is beep, no. I mean, I would not. I mean, I would not. Now, what's funny is, now, and I know you're not this way either, but there are like humans on this world that eating is like secondary.
Sure.
They're like going to a restaurant is like the last thing they want to do. They don't think about what they're going to eat at lunch and dinner, but they're eating their breakfast. I mean, there are people like that. So I'm not to say there's not a market for it, but I am not the avatar. However, go ahead with your funny story.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not the avatar. Maybe you are. But
what you're saying is, if there was an easier way, in all seriousness, if there's a way that I could take a pill and remove 21 meal decisions out of my life, there is part of that which is attraction.
Sure. There's an argument to be made, right? Like, so we're
convenience.
Yeah. We're extroverts. We're social. We love dining, breaking bread, all of that. And there's something really appealing to that to me, to just be like, man, that would really be efficient.
Right.
I don't have the mental load of that. There's no food prep.
And in all seriousness, there's some weeks when that would have bought me a whole lot of time and a whole lot less frustration, that kind of thing. So yes, I maybe am not the heavy user,
but every now and again,
yeah, exactly.
You'd say this is a week where
I do it in other aspects of my life already.
Right. Okay. So here's really the thought exercise, and it's the thought exercise for all of us. It's to say that pill. Yeah, I can't really think of an industry that is essentially that pill, where somebody is effectively satisfied, out of the market. They're not at all their share of stomach, let's call it, which is what this is talking about, is satisfied universally. They're off the market.
Okay, so share of stomach. So we're all clear. Share of stomach means that if like it applies to multiple industries, but in the food industry, restaurant industry, is that if I'm a breakfast cereal product, then there's basically at least seven opportunities where my customers could choose my cereal. If I'm a restaurant that serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner, there's at least 21 opportunities a week where a customer could choose to come in.
Sure.
And your most loyal customers may come in 2, 3, 4, 7 times. Right? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, we're really talking about a conversion rate of those 21 occasions, right?
And share stomach, while in restaurants, if you're open breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it would be 21. If you only open for Saturday brunch, then while there's 21 meals available, you really are you're 1 for 1 each week, right? So it's based on how many times a customer can need you versus how many times they could actually choose you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think really the application then, and this is sort of where I want to narrow in for the benefit of our community, is to say, well, let's pretend you're not in the restaurant space.
Right.
Let's pretend that you're not looking at 21 occasions in a week. But I think we can safely say, for the most part, again, where we started our show is, your product doesn't fully and finally satisfy, nor does your competitor's product. So the question is, if we're looking at the landscape of opportunity for how my product is consumed by or satisfies the customer, if we look at that landscape, how am I doing at converting? So can we talk about sort of the concept that we're kind of pulling out on?
Yeah.
Because I really do want to apply this to our community, many of whom are maybe in the retail space, in restaurants, or even not in restaurants, but this applies across all sectors.
It does, because what I have found and what I've been guilty of is not really looking at the delivery method and my product assortment in a way of realizing, well, how many times could a customer choose to buy me, and how many am I getting? It's almost like, sometimes it's called a kill rate, which is not really ideal.
It's called conversion
rate. But that if a customer, again, could buy 7 breakfasts from me, if I'm getting 2 a week, or if I'm getting 2 a month, whatever that number is, that is an indicator of how much you're actually integrated into the life of your customer.
Right. Yeah.
And how much you mean to them. Like if you are, so So think about an ice cream store at the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Now we go to Sunset Beach, North Carolina, Calabash Creamery. Big shout out to you. Some of the best ice cream in the world. Just happens to be about 9 minutes from the cottage we stay in.
Yeah.
They only have access to me 7 days out of the year.
Mm-hmm.
They better do all they can to get me as many times as 7 days because I have extreme loyalty. Unfortunately, the calories are pretty high on ice cream.
Yeah.
But it is the beach, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it is. I think what I'm trying to say is contextual. Mm-hmm. So you have to really understand not just what you do and what you sell and what your P&L is, but how does your product offering fit into the life of your customers? And are you getting a reasonable amount of the share of stuff?
Sure. Yeah. What we're really talking about there is frequency, right? We're talking about how often the customer has a touch point with you. And it makes me think about a couple of industries, and maybe we can just kind of peel those back a little bit because they're really different. One is the mattress industry.
Okay. So
the other is maybe grocery.
Okay. So mattress. Yeah. Okay. I think I know where you're probably going with this. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I think about the mattress industry and, for me, I look and I feel like every retail shopping space has a mattress store.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it. They exist there. And then I think that industry has done well to communicate to me and to you, hey, you probably need to change your mattress.
And if I have my facts right, it was actually, I think, Mattress Firm that came out with, I think it's 7 years?
New every 7.
New every 7 with the icon. Yeah. Now, is that kind of like Crest with 4 out of 5 dentists that they just found 4 dentists that would say, you should use Crest, and the 5th one just like Colgate?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's funny though. It comes across as like a scientific study proves this. I wonder if that's the case.
Yeah.
But, and we hadn't talked about this part, but have you ever looked at Julie and said, hey, how old is this mattress? I mean, like, they actually put that into our brain.
They have,
We should consider the life of our mattress, even though I don't know how many generations old the mattress was that I took to Carolina for my dorm, right?
Yeah. Well, and it is funny, and I don't know if they put it into my brain or if my body, as I'm 50, is going, you might think about a new mattress, but somewhere there's a time clock in my head that thinks it's probably time to replace this mattress. And I don't know whether Mattress Firm put that time clock in my head or if my body's telling me. But regardless, I think what we're talking about is there's a long a gap between purchase occasions there, right? And so that industry is really interesting to me because there's this historical presence of like brick and mortar retail. Right. They started telling me and you, every 7 years you need to replace this. There's all kinds of online competition. There's all kinds of stuff, and it's somewhat difficult to calculate effectively the share of stomach or the share of market there. You almost need to look over a lifetime, right? And so you say, well, geez, if I'm going to live this long and I buy a new one every 7 or every 10. What percent of those occasions am I getting? How many beds am I buying? How many people in my family? And you could kind of calculate that. And I think, leader, for your business, you could do the same. You say, well, what is my purchase frequency? What is the lifetime of that, the lifetime value of that customer?
Lifelong customer.
Right? So you say, well, and then what is my share of that market or share of that stomach?
Well, and so let's think about that. The calculation for a lifelong customer is you take what your average the retail value of an average transaction times the number of times a customer can buy that a year, 1, 10, a half,
point 1.
Like using, I can't do the number in my head, but with Mattress Firm or the 7-year number, that'd be 1 out of 7, which is probably closer to about 0.14 maybe.
Yeah. Times the number of beds.
That's right. But anyway, times the number of beds in the house.
Yeah.
And times how long the customer chooses to buy them from you.
Right.
That's really where you get to what the exponential value, the lifelong value of a customer is. And definitely, frankly, I see a blog post on this coming and, digging a little more into Mattress Firm as far as did the 7-year thing realize that did they realize their customers were buying every 10 years? And they realized that if they could shave 3 years off the replacement of mattresses, what it would do for their top line, bottom line.
Sure.
I mean, and that's not purely altruistic, but it's not also purely evil.
Right.
Because
A good night's sleep matters.
a good night's sleep matters.
Yeah.
And we know the mattress is pretty much a leading indicator on whether you're going to have a good night's sleep. And so I wouldn't say it was a PSA,
Yeah.
but it definitely was an indicator, a touch point
Right.
of causing the customer to reconsider the frequency of buying their products.
Sure.
And their products in the industry.
Yeah.
So one lesson, I mean, just tactically is can you do something intentionally to increase the frequency of which your customers want, need, and buy your product?
Yeah. Well, let's actually explore that point a little bit further in a different industry that I think is manifestly different than the mattress industry, and that's grocery.
Oh, wow.
I think the thing that I'm interested in exploring, because I think it has benefit to our community, is obviously we acknowledge the need for grocery in our lives. You know, like it's however many times you go, if you're one time a week, if you're every couple of days, and however you do that, it's a pretty regular cadence of head to the grocery store, restocking your deal, and unless you're off the grid and doing your thing, and if you are, God bless you, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Most folks aren't. So that grocery experience has largely, kind of post-agricultural days has largely existed the way that it does, whether it's the local, country store,
right,
or now, kind of larger grocers. It's sort of existed in the fabric of our American community this way.
It has.
Like this is how we do it. This is the cadence. But if you rewind the tape 5 decades, the way the grocery experience looked, and you look at it today,
right.
Let's talk about that as it relates to share of stomach or share of market.
Yep.
So in what ways is it different today than it was 5 decades ago?
So depending on your age, I mean, and really, it'd be interesting to go back and look as far as, okay, right now we're 2024. In 2014, what was like in 2004, in 1994, then 1984. I would say let's go back to 1984.
Yeah.
I would probably think in 1984, the only way that you could get your groceries was to go into a store, walk the store, put them in your basket, and then pray they had some cash registers open.
Yeah. And maybe there were a few white bags that were the private label grocery brand, but
some generic product, that's right.
There wasn't
right.
a whole lot. The number of SKUs on the shelf wasn't a ton.
But there was only one type of cash register. Now, whether it's 10 or 20 lanes, the only way to buy your groceries was to go through the cash register, manned by a human, operated by a human. They rang it up. You paid them probably with cash or a check.
Yeah,
maybe your credit card.
Writing the check.
Yeah,
or give them
the credit card and they go,
yeah.
We're showing our age. That's probably the 74. But anyway, and then go on, right?
Yeah.
Now think about it. There could be 10, 15 ways that you're buying your groceries today, whether it be that you need the jumbo thing of flour, so you get it from Amazon, or you need some fresh groceries, so you do curbside pickup because you're on the way to dinner. I mean, there's so many different ways of doing that. And so,
yeah, self-checkout.
You're probably not a grocery store, but my question to you, the question to us as business leaders is, how many cash registers or types of cash registers do we actually have? And are we actually operating them properly?
Right.
Because for me, as I look at most retail businesses, life hasn't gotten easier. And for many industries, the customer said, I don't want you to get rid of all the brick and mortar stores, right?
Right.
So now instead of just operating a brick and mortar store with a cash register with a smock and the name tag and the little number 3 light comes on and on when you're open and closed, you've got 3, 4, 7, 10 types of cash registers. Yeah, sales channels. And so I think one of the things that we as leaders have to do is constantly be evaluating the efficacy of our different sales channels, our different types of cash registers, and also ensure, and this is where I think we really want to help, is are you delivering a comparable and distinct experience in each of those types of cash registers?
Right.
Because it's harder to get the dollar, it's harder to keep the frequency, and you have to do it 3 or 4 or 5 different ways versus 40 years ago when if you're the grocery store, you just had to make sure you had checkers working the registers, right?
Yeah.
So what are some best practices? What are some things to help with that? Well, talk about share of stomach is that and we talk a lot about lifelong customers. And, in the last 4 years, I think there's a dynamic at play that is hazardous to restaurants, hazardous to retail, really hazardous to any business. Okay. Let's not even talk about the consumer's buying ability and the economy. Let's think about two things that have happened. One is with the acceleration of social media, digital media, etc. The ways to talk to our customers have become more and more and more complicated. They've become more and more and more complex. They become more and more and more dynamic, meaning you can't just do a flyer and put it on the cash register for 30 days, right? And the shelf life of the messaging is seconds and minutes,
right?
Versus when you could buy a billboard for your store, put it up, you bought it for 8 weeks, and it said, hot fries here, whatever it may be. So I think one is the complexity of what we're facing to visit with our customers, to tell our story is more complex. All right. So the cost per acquisition, the literal cost of buying media, but the cost of just complexity, significantly higher. But then what's happened to retail prices? They've gone up. So what happens when retail prices go up? Your sales go up, but your customer count doesn't change.
Right.
And so what happens is we have a lot of businesses that are increasing revenue based on the fact that they're charging more. And they're charging more because our vendor's charging more. And there's just this, and let's forget the economic impact. Let's talk about the successful health of this question. And that is, how many customers are you truly serving? Share of stomach comes back to really customer count as well.
Right.
How many customers are you serving, whatever your business is? And if you're not serving more customers today than you were 2 years ago, no matter what your sales look like, that is not healthy. That'd be the first thing. The second thing is, are the customers you're serving today, are they the customers that you were serving 2 years ago?
You're talking churn.
Churn, exactly. Churn means I still have the same number of transactions,
right?
But it's a bunch of new customers that we all love. We want new customers. But all of a sudden we realize that we're losing customers as fast as we're gaining them.
Yeah.
And so share a stomach, this is probably going to evolve into multiple episodes.
Right.
But it really is, I think, a principle. If we're only looking at our P&L, we can really kind of be distracted.
You can miss some nuance.
You can make, yeah. It's like I literally don't say it comes down to the nuance of really knowing what the health of your business is, not just today, but what the trajectory of your business is.
Yeah. Well, this is convicting conversation, and it is for me personally as a practitioner, and I think it is for our community, right? There's a practical side and a philosophical side. The practical side is we want to win, we want to grow share, we want share of stomach, share of market, etc. And the philosophical is we want to serve others well. We want a chance to do that. And there's really a lot there. My hope and prayer is that it has encouraged you, maybe challenged the way you think in terms of the nuance of the numbers, right?
Yeah, to just kind of take a pause and get beyond the P&L and really look at what is the true relationship you have existing with your customers, and what is the opportunity you have to win more customers, or to keep the customer you have even longer, or to win them over to buy more frequently from you.
As always, folks, it is our hope and prayer that the Wonder of Woo podcast has encouraged and equipped you to serve others well, to scale your business profitably in doing so. Ed, every time we do this, we say something with great conviction, and what is that?
And that is, everyone wants Woo.
Indeed. Until next time, we look forward to spending time with you on the Wonder of Woo podcast. Take care.
So that's it for today's episode of The Wonder of Woo. Head on over to Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to subscribe to our show. One lucky listener every single week who posts a review on Apple Podcasts will win a chance in the grand prize drawing to win a $25,000 value private VIP day with Darryl and me. Be sure to head on over to thewonderofwoopodcast.com and pick up a free copy of our gift. And please join us next time.